Hi everybody, Matt Lawton here. This is the Astrological Winds channel. I'm going to take a look at the astrological weather forecast for the week of September 28th through October 4th. And that is going to include our full moon in Aries on Thursday the 1st. So, some interesting energy going on this week for sure, and we're starting to hit that peak period of the second hit of Mars squaring the three outer planets in Capricorn, all of which are stationing and getting ready to go direct again. So really key time the next month or so. I've spoken about it a lot in past blogs and editions here, and we have Mars retrograde in Aries where it's normally really strong but being held back by circumstances and authorities. The week starts this Monday with an interesting relationship, two interesting relationship aspects that work against one another. Venus, still in Leo, does a fire trine to Mars retrograde. Now, usually Venus and Mars, when they get in the trine, is the best aspect for their energies to work together harmoniously. So there is a lot of opportunity and ability to do that, to have harmonious relationships with others. For lovers, it's a very amorous and romantic type of aspect, but for those who are not in a romantic relationship, it is a high form of creative expression where we get support from those around us to freely express ourselves and are able to give that to them too. So there's this really beautiful flow of energy that goes on with that, and it's really like a live and let live attitude, but I will also help you and you will help me in our ability to enjoy that live and let live attitude. Now, that being said, Mars is retrograde and ornery otherwise. So I don't really feel like we're going to get the full effect of this if Mars wasn't under such pressure in other ways. But I do think like it is a day where we, in a couple days really, where we can really creatively express ourselves well. But as far as the relationship part of it, there's another little stickler going on Monday that will, besides the Mars retrograde part. And remember, when Mars is in Aries too, and when Venus is in Leo, they're really both kind of in it for themselves first. So, you add the addition of Mars being retrograde and picking up the squares to the Capricorn planets, and it's hard to see that we're going to get what would be the most positive outcomes the way we would see that from this aspect. But also what's happening on Monday today is Venus is also quincunx Saturn. And Saturn is stationing direct late today. So it's literally standing still. And as I said about the quincunx before, it's just a really bumpy type of aspect because the planets have nothing in common when they're in this kind of aspect. So when Venus gets with Saturn, relationships can be really a struggle on with the quincunx, or with any aspect really with Saturn. But with the quincunx, you really feel like order to get what you want from another, and in a relationship, that you have to almost like prove yourself to them first, and usually that's like fulfilling a list of duties or something similar to that. That shows that you will sublimate your desires to what they want first. So that can make relationships difficult, because it really, inside, the person is more likely than not going to be feeling resentment on some level or another about having to serve others subordinately to actually basically get love or acceptance. So it can really bring up a lot of issues in relationships, issues with authorities that over you in relationships who you feel are like blocking you or holding you down. And it's just really, with the quincunx, it's just really hard to find common ground to, just to build off of. So that is really going to saddle the Mars trine Venus too. And so, there's some opportunities for connection there, but I just don't see the full flowering of that occurring. Now, I mentioned Saturn is stationing direct. Now, remember, on the 12th, Jupiter is stationed direct. And Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto are our three planets that have been in Capricorn all year and are really defining the events of this year, the blockages that we are all feeling in our lives from the circumstances of the world. And remember, Jupiter and Saturn are the two social planets. So when they're, in Capricorn, and especially Jupiter, feeling really restricted there, Saturn in Capricorn wanting to go back to old ways and old structures where that used to work in the past, but are not working as well anymore. So now Saturn is going to go direct. And like I told you a couple weeks ago, when Jupiter went direct, it was just like, let me just get out of Capricorn and head for Aquarius. Jupiter is so unhappy in Capricorn. But Saturn, doesn't mind Capricorn as much, but now, it also rules Aquarius, so like it's going to be heading right behind Jupiter towards Aquarius. And then they will get their great conjunction early next year, which will be the beginning of a new 20-year cycle. So, and so that's interesting, and especially in the sense that, not only do we have Venus quincunxing Saturn stationary, but we also have the second Mars-Saturn square and Mars retrograde cycle coming up on Wednesday. So when a planet is stationary, when it's either going direct or retrograde, that's when its energy is the strongest. So Saturn right now, and its restrictive, authoritarian type of energy, is at a very high peak, especially in Capricorn. It's kind of like the old guard has a lot of strength right now. And what that is doing when it squares Mars is it's stopping the individual from doing what they want to do. And the Mars-Saturn may not necessarily make people strike out from that resentment quite yet, but inside there's a simmering anger that's growing. As we get to the Mars-Pluto square in a week or so, then we may see a lot of this acting out. In the meantime, I would continue to expect authoritarian type of action to come down even harder on us, both personally and collectively in our lives, to put even more restriction upon us, to rely on order and law and discipline to hold things in a traditional kind of position rather than trying to grow it into a more evolutionary type of position. So it's like the old guard really holding on to what they want to do. And it does, like, now remember, on a personal level, we can work with this energy on projects that we take on cautiously, meticulously, and will not give us any immediate reward. It's a test of endurance and persistence and patience to get where we want. But we can actively engage in building new structure, but there will be a lot of challenge along the way. There will be a lot of tension along the way. There will be a lot of negative reaction and slapping down from those who have authority above us in those situations. So really reaching a peak now, this very intense Capricorn retrograde Mars cycle energy is just going to be so intense the next few weeks. And we go on from there, and on Thursday, we get the full moon. And the full moon is in Aries. So that means Mars is the ruler of the full moon. So we can see once again how Mars, in its very unhappy retrograde position, squaring the 3 Capricorn planets, is really, I don't want to say under the microscope, it's in the spotlight this week. And especially with a full moon. I mean, the full moon is when everything is bright and easily seen. Things that were hidden before are exposed and seen by the public, by the people, by ourselves, by, things that come up out of our own psyche can be seen. So we have the full moon, and it's at 9 degrees Aries, and the only aspect it's making, besides the opposition to the sun, of course, which is what a full moon is a conjunction to Chiron in Aries retrograde, which I've also talked about a lot. Taking responsibility for our own healing. Chiron in Aries for the next few years. Very difficult personal battles being struggled with within and being projected into the world without. Everybody feeling like they're some kind of warrior on their own boat, floating around, fighting everybody else off, and trying to find and learn from this information how we can heal ourselves. A very difficult task that we're in. And so when the moon is conjunct Chiron, our wounds are really sore. And there will be many events that trigger that emotional hurt and pain that is trying to propel us forward to heal ourselves. So, the moon in Aries is not very comfortable there. The moon in Aries, the moon wants connection with others. But Aries is the most individualistic sign in the zodiac. So there's a conflict inherent right within the moon being in Aries in the first place. And the Aries moon really, will create conflict to even get that emotional connection. For the moon in Aries needs adventure. It needs some kind of goal or something that it's moving towards in an active way that has it excited about life. And it will create even waves of dissension in doing so and not really care. So it's a very strong individualistic energy going on that can make it difficult to connect with others. And when you think that, that Mars, which rules Aries, so therefore is ruling this full moon, is also in a retrograde position, squaring Saturn, exact. Add that in with the moon in Aries, and you have, once again, basically the perfect storm of feeling very angry and resentful about being held back from what we really want to do and feeling really sensitive about it. So very apt to go to war with those around us. On a larger scale, leaders and countries definitely get in that zone also. So very intense energy going on there. And then when you think about the sun in Libra, normally the sun in Libra ruled by Venus, is like, let's find a way to peace. Let's find a way to sit down and hammer out an agreement and meet in the middle so that we can have peace and harmony between us. But once again, we have Venus ruling Libra, and it's in Leo. And that's where Venus can really be a little bit more selfish and individualistic in its desires. So it really is feeding, once again, the individual versus others rather than bringing it together like Libra would want to. And it's interesting too, one of the things about Libra is that Libra wants peace and harmony, but when pushed, will openly declare war on those who are against the principle. So we'll actually go to war for peace, if that kind of makes any sense at all. So a pretty intense full moon for sure, because we're all going to feel our wounds, and we're all going to feel like other people and circumstances are poking at them. And I think what it may do, is reveal a lot of where our pain is coming from, where, we're getting wounded from others too, who our enemies are, who our allies are. And unfortunately, I would feel like with all the negative stuff around Mars, or what we judge as negative stuff around Mars, that this Libra sun is not going to be able to get the peace and harmony and balance that it wants anytime soon. And therefore will go to the tendency of going to war, choosing a side, and possibly being sucked into that moon in Aries, Mars retrograde, square Saturn energy of feeling really defensive, touchy, irritable, ready for a battle. So we definitely have a struggle in front of us that is very acute right now. And once again, the moon just amplifies what's already going on. So it's going to amplify this big time this week. A couple other last things. On Friday, Venus goes into Virgo. So that's in fall, which is one of the weakest signs that Venus can go into. And Venus is all about getting love somehow through our relationships. Not necessarily romantic love, but, love. And for Venus in Virgo, she sacrifices herself to serve others, thinking that that is the avenue to get the love that you want by serving others. And to a certain degree, that is correct. And it is a very sacred cycle, sacred earth energy of Virgo that can, with certain ritualistic type behaviors, bring people together. The problem with Venus in Virgo and why it's so weak there is that we fall very easily into the role of being a martyr and open ourselves up to victimization within relationships. Lowered self-confidence about being accepted for who we are. Therefore, we have the need to serve others so that we can gain their acceptance and love. So Venus kind of backs itself into a weak corner, and she's not feeling very social, she's not feeling vivacious, she's not feeling externalized. But like I said, there is a lot of sacred energy that can be worked with Venus in Virgo within a ritualistic group, sharing the same type of behaviors and having that group relationship. And if everyone is serving equally, it can be a very beautiful thing. The last thing I want to mention is also that the Sun quincunxes Uranus on Friday too, which is definitely a very awkward, bumpy kind of aspect where it's almost someone who is a rebel without a cause and therefore can really create a lot of waves around us, surprising, impulsive moves that probably don't serve us very well, but kind of coming out of just a quick decision that's very impulsive, reacting to a situation that you may end up feeling sorry for pretty quickly. So beware of that energy. It's also very accident-prone energy from taking actions and moving too fast without thinking through about what we're doing. So that's a little bit of a bumpy ride too on Friday. And then Sunday next week is when Pluto goes direct. So that will be the last of the 3 planets in Capricorn, the outer planets all in Capricorn, those 3, this year, that will go direct. Now remember, Pluto moves a lot slower than Jupiter and Saturn, so it will not be leaving Capricorn anytime soon yet. And the United States will now, as Pluto will now advance for the next 7 months, will come closer and closer and closer to the exact Pluto return, which is in 2023, I think at 27, 28 degrees of Capricorn. And as I've said before, any country that goes through a Pluto return has a completely new form of way of running the country, if it survives. Many countries don't survive a Pluto return or different empires in the past that were, what would be considered a country today, don't survive their Pluto return. It's usually the time of destruction where they can be taken over. But I think in our modern world, what we see mainly is that countries revolutionize from within and new forms of government take over. And of course, Pluto in Capricorn can be very authoritarian, so it could be a very strong strong authoritarian, bordering on fascism, complete power in the hands of those who are at the top of the pyramid type of energy. So that Pluto is going to be moving forward again. And I think with all these planets moving forward again, we're really just going to see a lot of like the frustration and anger and resentment being pushed out and brought out. So a lot of like intense energy right now. And you know, normally I would say that Venus trine Mars will help, which it probably will a little bit on Monday, Tuesday, but for the most part, this week is going to be really, once again, staring into the restrictive way of life that most of us have been forced into, and really seeing like a controlling authoritative type of energy try to like, you know, just gain more control of it, mainly through things that have worked in the past, and most likely we'll find out that they're not working out as well as they were, and they need to really be transformed into new ways of doing things. All right, this has been a pretty long blog. We have a new month starting on Thursday, October. So what I may do is I'll come back maybe in a couple days and go through the October monthly report and just look at the 3 or 4 biggest things for October. But I know right now already, you know, we're in the Mars retrograde. We're going to get the second squares to Pluto and Jupiter for sure. Mercury, like I said last week, now in Scorpio, will be doing its 3rd retrograde phase of the year, all in water signs. All this stuff leading up in the United States to the election should make an October full of surprises, probably more than one a day. So anyway, I will take a look a little bit deeper into the main themes of October and get that up for us by the end of the week. All right, my name's Matt Lawton. This is the Astrological Winds channel. I am available for all kinds of readings. My email is mattHue823@gmail.com. Contact me no matter what your budget is. If you need a reading, we can work something out. Also, the blog is a free service. I encourage you to become a follower on YouTube because, frankly, like, I social media bomb some of you, but I'm starting to slowly let it go. It's time for some self-responsibility. If you want to continue to watch the blog, become a follower, turn on your notifications too, so you know the blog was posted, and please spread the blog around to anybody who you think would be interested in it. All right, this is Matt Lawton. I'm signing off. You have a good next few days. Try to bear with this energy. Sit back. Put the energy into something that you're building for endurance for the long term, to completely shift things on a foundational level. This is the best way to use this Mars energy right now. All right, I will be back in touch at the end of the week, and we'll look at the October monthly forecast then. Until then, peace out.